Hey, well, hello everybody. Thank you guys for joining Travel Talk Tuesday. This is Tuesday, May the 11th, 2021. And tonight we're talking about Scotland and more particularly about the big capital city there, Edinburgh. And so thank you guys for joining in both on Zoom and on Facebook. I appreciate you joining in and sharing with us. Gosh, so formulating this video for tonight just made me so exciting because Scotland is just a small little part of the United Kingdom. And if you think about the island and everything, you realize that a big part of the island is what we know as England. And then the north part is Scotland. And then to the west, there's a little peninsula that sticks out is Wales. So, and then across the Irish Sea is the part of another part of the United Kingdom called Northern Ireland on the big island of Ireland. So that's what makes up the United Kingdom, but we're concentrating on Scotland because the Scots really have been seeking their independence from England since 900 AD. And they almost got it about 6 years ago and had a referendum, and it didn't quite pass. But I'm thinking that now with Brexit all said and done, and with everybody being ruled from London, that the Scots are ready to maybe bail out and be a part of the EU and be their own country. So we'll see how that all plays out in the next few years, I think. But gosh, that's a long way off considering that we've been in a pandemic and a lockdown for the past 17, 18 months. And I'm looking forward to getting back on a plane and going somewhere real soon. And so we're working toward that end. And so I hope that Scotland's going to be on the docket. We have a couple of tours that visit Scotland, and we're just looking forward to maybe working that into our plan in the coming months. So let me just go ahead and share my screen again. And let's look at, this is right here, this photo, the last photo you just saw is on the island of Iona. And it's one of the Hebrides Islands. And so it's off the west coast of, kind of the northwest coast of Scotland. There's the Inner Hebrides and Outer Hebrides. So I'll talk a little bit about that next week. But I had so much material that I'm just going to concentrate this week on Edinburgh. And then next week, I'm going to deal with the Highlands and the seaside there in Scotland. So let's just go with that. Let me get this rolling here and show you a little map. It's kind of really blown up out of proportion, but this is the northern part of the island that includes Scotland, Wales, and England. And then just across the Irish Sea is what we know as the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland as well. So we're going to concentrate on the next slide, which deals with Edinburgh to the north. Now, Edinburgh is right here. And so the boundary between Scotland and England kind of traces the boundary of the Roman Emperor Hadrian. And he never got beyond just a little south of Edinburgh. As a matter of fact, you may remember that in the 400s or in the 300s, he built a Hadrian's Wall, and to keep all the Scots out of the Roman Empire. And so anything north of there, we think about being in what we now know as Scotland. And we think about those as being indigenous people who lived there. Some of them were known as the Picts or even the Blue Men and that kind of stuff because they painted their faces blue. But they also were invaded by the Vikings as well. So just like in Ireland and Northern Ireland, the cultures kind of melded together and clans developed or tribes developed. And that's what we think of when we think about the Highlands of Scotland. So from Edinburgh to the south is the lowlands. And from Edinburgh, or about where St. Andrews is, from that place forward up to the north is what we call the Highlands. So let me just play a little bit about Edinburgh here. This little video I shot a few years back. Edinburgh is the capital city of Scotland. There's about 500,000 people there that live there. And it's the largest city in the country. Glasgow, which is only an hour away, is the second largest. And then Inverness, which is up to the north, is the third. But it's not a very big country at all. The whole country is less than 5 million.
Hi, David McGuffin here from the cultural and historical capital of Scotland. Although technically part of the UK, the Scots have always been an independent sort. I hope you enjoy this look around Edinburgh, Scotland.
So the scene you just looked at was filmed. There are two parts of Edinburgh: the old town, the medieval town, and also the new town, the Georgian town built in the late 1700s. So you saw my introduction was from the old town. So when you see old buildings and a lot of stone, then that's going to be in the old part of town. And then we'll have the Victorian and Georgian era of town, which is the 17 and 1800s. So you can see right here, this is neo-Gothic or neoclassical. This is a monument to Walter Scott, one of the famous writers in Scotland. This is the guard at the Edinburgh Castle. St. Giles Cathedral, we'll see a lot, dates from the late 1400s. This is what's known as the Royal Mile, and one of many pubs along the Royal Mile.
Scotland. We're going to do a Scotland and Wales tour coming up the next few days, and then pop on down to London and Paris, and then finally over to Dublin. Hope you can follow me around for the next 3 or 4 weeks and enjoy my adventures and tour guiding here in Europe. Hey, good evening, David McGuffin here from Edinburgh, Scotland. I've just arrived here. It's April the 8th, and
So I'll stop in just a second, and you can see the tower of St. Giles Cathedral. And like I say, it was built in 1495, and that tower was very important because it resembles the crown of the monarch. And although the Scots did not really want to be part of the United Kingdom and wanted nothing to do with the English did conquer them. And so this was kind of a throwback in their face to have this symbol there being the crown of the monarch. But now it's very widely accepted, and they embrace Queen Elizabeth and everything, because she comes to the Holyrood Palace down to the foot of the hill and stays there all summer long. So it's a little bit more better relationships than it was 300 or 400 years ago.
Desolate on the streets at about 8 o'clock at night. But Edinburgh is a fantastic city to visit. Big difference between being here in July at the time of the festival and August tattoo. But behind me, up the hill, is the Edinburgh Castle, and in the other direction, down the hill, down the Royal Mile, is the Palace of Holyrood. It's a rare time when I get up here where there's no scaffolding or anything up for the Edinburgh tattoo, which is held in August. I kind of think maybe about 7 months of the year there's scaffolding everywhere here. But as you can see on my quick spin around in a counterclockwise motion, no scaffolding in sight. The Royal Mile there behind me, the camera obscura, the hub church down the way, and then back around to the magnificent Castle Hill, Edinburgh Castle. Thanks for tuning in. Your adventure starts here with David McGuffin's Exploring Europe.
a few years back, I began my travels in Edinburgh and progressed on to, I think, Paris and finally Vienna. And in each of those three cities, as I arrived on successive weekends, there was a marathon going on. And so this is a little bit of video I filmed right outside of my hotel room of the marathon, Edinburgh Marathon going on right up the Royal Mile. Now, the Royal Mile is pretty steep. First of all, it's cobbled streets. And luckily, these marathon runners were running down the Royal Mile. So it's about a mile and a quarter. And so they had a pretty good pace going on. So this is a little footage of the Edinburgh Marathon.
Hi, David McGuffin here from Edinburgh, Scotland. We're here on a Sunday morning, and guess what? We've arrived at the Edinburgh Marathon. All over Europe this time of year, there are marathons occurring everywhere. This is the third one that we've encountered, oh gosh, in the past 6 or 8 weeks. A few weeks ago, we were in Madrid, and we were shut down for the day as far as driving because of the marathon. But we embraced the moment and had a great time that day as well. Also, a few weeks before that in Vienna, the Vienna Marathon was occurring. Luckily, it was on a Saturday and a Sunday when we were not driving anywhere, so we embraced the moment as well. The trams weren't running, but we used the underground and walked a lot, and we still had a great time touring around. So you never know what's going to happen. You might think some things are obstacles in your way, but if you just embrace the moment and enjoy it, what an experience you'll have. So from Edinburgh, your adventure starts right here with David McGuffin's Exploring Europe.
I'm glad I was just talking, not running. I can't imagine running one of those things, so it's kind of crazy. I wanted to share with you a little bit about the cuisine of Scotland, because wining and dining and eating well is a very important thing for me when I travel and on my tours. And so when I think about Scotland, a lot of things pop to mind, and I kind of made a collage of a video collage of all of that I'm going to show next week, because I want to showcase all over the island. But at any place you are, you're not very far from the ocean, from the North Sea or the Irish Sea. So getting fresh fish and fresh seafood is just very easy to do, and it's on the menu of every restaurant. Especially wild North Atlantic salmon is something that you see all of the time on any menu, and it doesn't even compare at all in taste to the way that the salmon tastes that's farm raised and whatnot. So that's a very important thing. Also mussels, clams, scampi. All of those crustaceans are very important and harvested straight off the coast around there as well. There's real life fishermen in these villages that go out every day and fish. And so it's you don't know what you're going to get. I mean, you hear names of fish over there that we never hear before, like John Dory. I had to look it up and see what it is, but basically it was a great tasting white fish. But so we just, you just brace the moment and do that. Also, in Scotland, you hear about the beef, because there's plenty of cattle there, and Scottish beef is just fantastic. And so I pondered about what I was going to do with preparing dinner tonight, and our appetizers, everything. So our appetizers are sort of the same. We have some fresh honey from Middleburg, right across the way from my friend Leslie's Bees, and walnuts and gorgonzola cheese. So we've got that going for our little appetizer. And then for our main course, we have, unfortunately, it's not Scottish beef, but I'm going to cook up on the grill in a few minutes some beef, Publix beef. So I'm going to cook that up. And then the Scots always serve kind of a tasteless mixture they call veg. So this is about as close. I'm going to steam it, but it's carrots and broccoli and potatoes that are pretty much unseasoned as well. But I've added my little touch to it as well. So once we get it going and get it cooked, I think it's going to taste pretty good after we finish Travel Talk Tuesday. So that's our menu tonight. And in addition to that, I can't leave the cuisine of Scotland without talking about breakfast first. So you have a full Scottish breakfast, and that is just, don't have to eat anything the rest of the day if you don't really want to. But it always consists of eggs, some way or another. They're mostly fried eggs. There's tomatoes that are grilled. There's some sort of sausage and some sort of bacon. We would call it, the bacon over there is kind of like our southern country ham, very salty. So sausage and eggs. There's always mushrooms, canned baked beans right out of the can. That's okay. Heat it up, of course. And then they have black and white pudding, which is blood sausage. And it's basically kind of the leftover things of the sheep or cow or whatever they're doing, or the pig, I guess it's pig in this case, mixed with some oatmeal and stuff and spices. So it's pretty good too. But the breakfast is just phenomenal. And like I say, you'll never want to eat anything else the rest of the day if you end up eating their full Irish breakfast. It's always served with coffee or tea. Mostly the Scots drink tea. And so that's that. And then the other thing that I can't speak firsthand about, but everybody always asks, is about the haggis. And the haggis is something I just can't wrap my mind around or put in my mouth either. But I've seen it and described it. One old Scottish gentleman described it to me as being all the naughty parts of a sheep ground up and stuffed inside its bladder, along with some oatmeal and cooked in the oven for you. So if you think that sounds good, then if you go to Scotland with me, go ahead and order it. It's on all the menus. So you go for it, but I can't speak firsthand for the haggis. Okay, let's move on here. I think, let's see what's coming up next. So in Edinburgh, in normal years, the month of August and late July is a big festival season. So a lot of people from all over the world come there, and the festival is drama presentations, plays, poetic readings, some musical performances, and that entire area of the Royal Mile is turned in during the day as an advertisement for the events that happen in the theaters and venues later on in the evening and farther stretching on into the morning. So you're likely to just be walking up the Royal Mile and someone walks out and falls dead at your feet, and another guy comes, picks them up and takes them off and buries them and that kind of thing. Just giving you a little taste of what the show is going to be like later on that night. There's also, and that's the Edinburgh Festival, and groups from all over the world come. We've had a couple of drama classes from the United States go over there and present their a show or their play, about 30 minutes in length, at the Edinburgh Festival. So it's been kind of interesting to do that and take part of it and see it from the backside as well. Then following the Edinburgh Festival is a whole month of what's called the Edinburgh Tattoo. And the tattoo occurs at the Palace, the Edinburgh Castle at the top of the hill, not the Palace, the Edinburgh Castle at the top of the hill. And it's massed bands of bagpipes and brass bands. And it's, from the Army, the Navy, all of those things from the UK. And it's just a grand presentation that if you ever get a chance to go in August, you don't want to miss it. So this next little video clip is a little bit about the Edinburgh Festival and Fringe Festival. Sorry, I waxed on too much.
Okay, so hi, David McGuffin here from Edinburgh, Scotland. I'm decked out in the blue. Actually, the white and blue, St. Andrew's blue, the color of the flag of Scotland. And we're here on the last few days of July, leading up to the Edinburgh Festival, which begins the 1st of August. They're kicking this place off. Everything is gearing up for this month-long festival of the Fringe Festival, which is plays, musicals, and of course, also the Edinburgh Tattoo, which happens at this time as well. So I hope you enjoy this little look around, gearing up for the Edinburgh Festival here in Edinburgh, Scotland. This little festival village is only here during the Edinburgh Festival, which is the last few weeks of July and all of August. And it's kind of like, almost reminds me of a little area if you go on the Christmas markets tour in Germany and Austria, because they have some live entertainment, outdoor seating. They have tons of taps of beer. People are just enjoying the environment here. Beer, wine, street food. So over here, beer and meat and then live entertainment as well, which is pretty good. Pickering is a distillery that makes some gin in the little town of Leith, which is just the port town here in Edinburgh. So it's pretty cool venue as well. So lots going on here, a lot of people showing up, coming into town. So still on the Georgian side, the Newtown side of Edinburgh, and this is the famous Balmoral Hotel. Just down below it is the train station, the Waverley Station, and this was an old-time train station hotel. One of the 5-star hotels in this city. Looking on beyond, this AstroTurf, a little field here is kind of cool. It's not here all the time, but it's here for the Edinburgh Festival. And then we look over and see the Georgian architectural style. This purpose-built part of town with the grid plan layout and some parks all over the place, like squares. Charlotte Square is one of them. St. James Square is one of them. George's Square is one of them. But this town was laid out in the late 1700s during the era of the King Georges. Looking across to the ancient medieval Old Town, you can see over here, is a totally different aspect, because here... Let me stop it just a second and tell you, can you see how far up the stories of the buildings reach? 14 stories or more. And so these were about the first skyscrapers ever built. And the reason why is because the town developed there, and it was in such a small area on the hill that went up to the castle that there was nowhere to build but up. And so the peasants and the poor and infirmed lived down on the very, very lower levels, even below the streets. And then the rich aristocracy lived up on the topper levels in the penthouses. And so if you go to Edinburgh today, you can take underground tours that go down for 4 stories underneath that Royal Mile, visiting all of these places down below and underneath. And of course, you can imagine there are ghost tours and that sort of things down there as well. We can see with the Green Dome over here, the former Bank of Scotland building. Huge, dominates the entire skyline over there, but yet now, unfortunately, it is been bought out by Lloyd's Bank of England. The spire you see right here is the spire of the famous cathedral here in town called St. Giles Cathedral, and the spire dates from, gosh, the 1500s and the late 1400s, and it resembles the crown of the monarch. And looking on down the Royal Mile through this festival village, you can see an extinct volcano mountaintop now called Arthur's Seat. and many people like to hike up to Arthur's Seat. Let me see if I can zoom in just a little bit to see if you can see anybody up there. Hi, good morning. David McGuffin here, still in Edinburgh, Scotland. You can see wonderful blue skies, clouds, great weather. Gosh, it's about maybe 45, 50 degrees. A fantastic day to spend here in Edinburgh. I've spent the morning walking down from the castle up the hill about 1.25 miles and all the way down to the Palace Holyrood. And this, looking here behind me, is the newly formed Scottish Parliament. The Scottish Parliament was abolished in 1707 with the Act of Union between Scotland and England. It wasn't until 1999 that England allowed the Scottish Parliament to be re-established, and in 2004 they moved into this newly formed Parliament building at the foot of the Royal Mile, known as the area of Holyrood. This 21st century building was designed by Catalan architect Enric Morales. In his design, he has incorporated lots of natural materials such as wood, stone, and lots of glass. Nearby is Holyrood Park, with the craggy summit of Arthur's Peak prominently displayed in the background. In his design, the architect envisioned the Parliament building rising up from the craggy summit of Arthur's Seat. Inside, you'll find the debating chambers where 129 members of Parliament discuss matters relating to Scotland. I hope you've enjoyed this look around Holyrood and the Scottish Parliament building. Your adventure starts here with David McGuffin's Exploring Europe.
And just across the street from that Parliament building is the Queen's summer residence of Holyrood Palace. And it's been there for centuries and centuries and centuries, since the 1290s, and been, of course, built upon, and there's a lot of ruins from chapels and everything there. But the Queen does actually take up residence there and live there and throw tea parties and garden parties during the month of June every year.
Hey, David McGuffin here on the grounds of Holyrood Palace here in Edinburgh, Scotland. Behind me is the ruins of the ancient abbey founded by King David in the 1100s. Of course, back at the time of the Reformation, it was razed, stained glass taken away by the roof fell down in the 1700s, and so it's just an ancient site now, but pretty cool and evocative. This is Holyrood Palace. I don't know, kind of impressive, but not so much if you've been to some of the palaces, say Palacio Real in Madrid, or Chartres, or even some of the palaces, Schönbrunn in Vienna, or the grand palaces in Venice as well, the Doge's Palace. So if you want to skip something here, maybe in Edinburgh, this might be a good thing to do. But the grounds are lovely. Hope you enjoyed this look around. The countryside is fantastic here, so you can see behind me back here in this region, back here right behind me is the extinct volcano overlook that's about 830 feet off the ground, but affords fantastic vistas all over the city of Edinburgh. It's called Arthur's Seat. Hey, your adventure starts right here with David McGuffin's Exploring Europe. Just look around it.
And from at the very foot of the Royal Mile, we hike uphill 1.25 miles, and then you come to this castle esplanade, the main area of the Castle of Edinburgh. And I just happened to be there at some celebration and caught a brass band coming out. I want you to notice these guards here, that they're always on duty, and they do every quarter of an hour, they do a little march around just to change positions to, otherwise they're just frozen like statues. But you could check out them. They're going wild when the band comes out because they're getting their exercise. Pretty good band. Marching at that. And then right after that wondrous sonorous melody, the march that the brass band was playing, the bagpipes come out. And they're good too, but it sounds a little bit different. I'll stop it for just a second, and you heard me allude to the bleachers that are all up in that Castle Esplanade in preparation for the festival or the tattoo in August. And so here you see them, and seriously, it probably takes them 3 months to put them up, 1 month to use them, and 3 months to take them back down. So that's 7 months of the year that something's going on up there. So to find myself up there in that previous video when nothing was up there and it was so totally quiet was just a welcome change. So along the Royal Mile, anyone who has talent or thinks they have talent can take up a spot for 25 minutes and perform, whether it be reading poetry or playing the bagpipes or the violin or guitar and singing. And so this is a young lady pretty much near that Bank of Scotland that I was pointing out. So halfway down the Royal Mile, that's what they're called buskers. And so they're playing for change. I should have edited this a little bit better. That's some of the pavement. And looking back up the Royal Mile to the castle in this direction. And another set of buskers. They're right outside St. Giles Cathedral, which, by the way, John Knox, the founder of what we call the Presbyterians, was the famous priest there who broke away from the church in the Reformation and started the Presbyterian Church. And I'm going to leave it at that for the moment for Edinburgh. And I've got a lot more material for next week as we visit the Highlands north of Edinburgh and to the west. So we'll visit St. Andrew's Golf Course, a couple whiskey distilleries, the Battle of Culloden battlefield, Loch Ness, Unfortunately, we won't see the monster. I tried to find him. And then out to the west coast to Oban and the Hebrides Isles. So that's the full show next week. And so I figured I could roll all that together and stretch 2 weeks of Scotland out of that. Now, so anyway, I'm going to wrap it up with that. And thanks again for joining in on Travel Talk Tuesday. We'll see you next week, this same time. Take care. Good night.